Hey everyone. Look, we all hear about cybersecurity risks all the time, right? Data breaches, scams, you name it. But here's the thing. Just knowing you're at risk, that's only half the battle. So today, we're going to flip the script. We're moving past just talking about the problem and getting into how we can actually defend ourselves. So that really leads us to the big question, doesn't it? We get it. We're at risk. But what are we actually going to do about it? I mean, it's not enough to just sit there and know the danger is out there. How do we switch from being passive observers to active defenders? You know, there's this great analogy that just nails it. Knowing your roof has a hole in it doesn't do a thing to keep you dry when it starts raining, right? You've got to actually get up there and patch the hole, or at the very least, grab a bucket. Awareness isn't the solution, action is. And in the world of cybersecurity, those actions, well, they have a name. We call them controls. Okay, so what is a security control? It's really just a fancy term for any safeguard you put in place, any countermeasure. Think of it like this, and this really helps. If a cyber risk is the disease, then security controls are the medicine. They're the actual practical things we do to fight back. Now this is super important because it shatters a really common myth. When we hear security control, a lot of us immediately think of software, right? Like an antivirus program. But that's not the whole picture, not even close. A truly effective defense is built on 3 pillars: people, process, and technology. You need trained people, you need solid roles to follow, and you need the right tech. Take one away, and the whole thing gets wobbly. All right, so we've got this toolbox full of controls, but how do we make sense of them all? Well, a really useful way to categorize them is by what they do, or, more specifically, when they do it. Are we talking before an attack happens, during, or after the fact? First up, we've got preventive controls. These are your bouncers at the door. They're your first line of defense, and their one and only job is to stop an attack cold, before it even gets started. It's as simple as a locked door on your house. In the cyber world, this is your firewall, or that multi-factor authentication, MFA, that you use. The goal is simple. Keep the bad guys out. Period. Okay, but let's be real. No lock is unpickable. Prevention is never, ever going to be 100% perfect. And that's exactly why we have detective controls. These are your alarm systems, the tripwires. They work on the assumption that sooner or later, something's going to slip past the bouncer. Their job is to start screaming the moment that happens. When your antivirus software pops up that little notification saying, hey, we found something nasty, yep, that's a detective control doing its job. And that brings us to number 3, corrective controls. So the bad guy got past the lock and the alarm went off. Now what? This is where corrective controls kick in. They're all about damage control and cleanup. They don't stop the initial break-in, but they help you recover and reduce the impact. The absolute classic example is having a spare tire in your trunk. Or in our world, it's being able to restore all your important files from a backup after a nasty ransomware attack hits. Okay, so now we know our 3 types of tools: preventative, detective, and corrective. Awesome. But just having a hammer, a saw, and some nails doesn't mean you've built a house, right? You need a blueprint, a strategy. So how do we take these individual controls and assemble them into something that's actually strong? Something like a digital fortress. It all starts with this one absolutely critical rule, a mindset you have to adopt: assume failure. I'm going to say that again, assume failure. You have to go into this knowing that any single one of your defenses can and probably will fail at some point. That firewall, it could have a vulnerability. That well-trained employee, they might have a bad day and click on a phishing link. Nothing is foolproof. And that assume failure mindset leads us directly to what might be the single most important strategic concept in all of cybersecurity. It's called defense in depth. The idea is incredibly powerful, but also really simple. You use layers, lots and lots of layers. You build multiple walls, so if an attacker breaches the first one, they don't win. They just find themselves facing a second wall, and a third. It's all about getting rid of that single point of failure. The best way to think about this? A medieval castle. It's a perfect analogy. A castle doesn't just have one wall, right? First, you've got the moat. That's kind of like your perimeter firewall. If they get across that, they hit the massive outer walls. Think of that as the antivirus on your computers. Then inside, you've got guards patrolling. Those are your detective systems, always watching the network. And the crown jewels? They're locked away in the inner keep, protected by the strongest locks. That's your encryption. See? Every single layer is designed to slow an attacker down and buy you more time to react. So we've got our tools, we've got our layered strategy. The last piece of the puzzle is, where do we put all this stuff? Because a good defense isn't just about protecting one building, it's about guarding the entire kingdom. We need to apply these layers of controls everywhere, across all the different parts of our digital lives. We call these domains. And this just gives you a taste of what we're talking about. Look at this. It's not just about network security. It starts with physical security, like literally locks on doors and security guards. Then you've got personnel security, which is all about the people, training them, making sure they're trustworthy. And then you get to the stuff we usually think of, like network and endpoint security for our data traffic and our laptops. A real strategy has to cover the whole shebang. But here's the thing, and if you take away only one thing from this, let it be this. With all this cool tech talk of firewalls and encryption and AI, it is so easy to forget the single most important layer of them all, the human layer. People. Us. We can be the weakest link, for sure, but we can also be the strongest defense. Good training and just basic awareness, honestly, they can be more powerful than the most expensive piece of software you can buy. So let's bring this all back home. I want you to think about your own digital life, your emails, your photos, your bank accounts, as a fortress protecting everything that's important to you. So here's the question. Is your fortress just protected by one single lonely wall, like maybe one password you use everywhere? Or have you actually built a defense in depth? Really ask yourself, does my fortress have more than one wall?